Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 9th of 2020, and welcome to Rudy's Psychic Meetup. And of course, that means we have Rudy here. How's it going, Rudy?
Hey everyone, going great. We are preparing to get our puppy here in about 2 weeks. So hopefully my son will be in charge of that, so it won't be in our meetups, but maybe I'll bring her to the January meetup so everyone can see the new puppy. Because who doesn't love puppies, right, Sam? Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I'd mentioned, I think before in another meetup that we had, as a family, kind of gotten together and kind of focused on the puppy that we want because we knew we were getting one from a breeder, and we kind of all took some time and thought about it. And in October, November, I started having a couple dreams about a puppy. So, I didn't know what it meant, if it was getting closer. And sure enough, we got the call, kind of a surprise call a couple weeks ago, that our puppy was going to be ready for pickup on December 23rd. So interesting. And that takes us into our first topic tonight, which is dreams, and what they may have some meaning there. So, Sam, I know we mentioned dreams last meetup. And you said you had just spoken to Baggy about it, and you could probably go off on, a whole nother show about dreams. But I wanted to explore the topic a little bit more deeply because, I think there's a lot of YouTubers out there who talk a lot about their dreams. We have a pretty active dream room there on the Discord. And, people are really starting to pay attention to their dreams, myself included. And I realized I had Edgar Cayce's book on dreams and how to decode your dreams. And he had a good saying that's nothing of importance happens in our lives that isn't first foreshadowed by a dream. That doesn't mean all of our dreams predict the future, nor do they necessarily tell us what to do, but they do provide insights from our subconscious or soul minds to assist us with whatever is going on in our lives. So, Sam, just to kick it off, what are your thoughts kind of on dreams and how information can flow to people through their dreams?
I was very impressed with the level of accuracy that Edgar Cayce had in his dream state. And that's probably why I described myself in the beginning when I opened the hobby channel. If you read the transcript, when I'm describing like what this is that I'm doing, I described myself as Edgar Cayce without the nap. And what I found is that I did not need to go into a dream state, but I recognize that not everybody has the same experience with their mediumistic abilities. Some people would have to go into a trance or a dream state. Other people, like me, it's not a requirement. I mean, everybody has some people can heal, other people can't. Some people have clairaudience all the time. Other people haven't even had it once. But that doesn't diminish, what they can do. And all I have to say about all that as well is that please make sure that anybody claiming to have special abilities comes with proof. Just like when we were talking about Barefoot Dog. Well, that's because there's a bunch of people on the Discord who have used her services who can vouch for her and say, this wasn't, the Emperor's New Clothes situation.
Right. And there's crypto dreams, and people have about a price going here, and look, I can say I had dreams that Tezos went up to 333. Well, yeah, it's probably going to do it whether I had a dream about it or not, right? So it's the bigger stuff that really they need a good track record on. Because I think about the types of dreams that I have personally, and most of them are, I would say, I dream in color. I've heard maybe people don't always dream in color, but you have those normal dreams that you wake up and you forget them right away. They're not that impactful. Sometimes it's kind of like your conscious integrating your day's activities into the subconscious. I'd find if I played a video game, when I used to play a lot of video games, I would have dreams like that. But what about the types of dreams, Sam, that seem to stick out from the norm? Is there some significance to those? I know you've had one. I think your ETH dream was one that you told us about before, that you woke up and you had that ETH dream.
Yeah, it was just at the I caught it at the tail end. Okay. And that was also that when I told everybody about December 11th and then the 13th to the 15th of December, I also got that information. That was, again, something that came out just when I was coming out of my dream state. So apparently there's a lot of stuff that is going on about, in the ethos that I'm dreaming about that I'm not even aware, because I'll tell you, it's only when I'm coming out of it that I just remember the last few parts of whatever it was I was dreaming about. But who knows? I mean, maybe these are the things that I have blabs about during the daytime.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because like Edgar Casey, that was really his form of mediumship, was that going into that dream state, and that was his main tool. So he's kind of the expert on that. But not everybody will get that. But where you're a medium and you seem to be getting information all the time, I wonder if for certain people or certain abilities, you're more likely to get information in your dream state than other, maybe the normies, right?
I would say so, because it doesn't seem to ever turn off now that I'm using it. And that was kind of the warning thing that I gave to a few people who were anxious to get going with their abilities. And I was like, well, you have to remember, it changes your entire life.
Yeah.
Your life will never be the same again. So if you like your life and you like how it is, then don't be in a rush. Make sure that the timing is right, because the people on the other side will once they decide that you're going to be doing something that's, for the good of everybody, then you're going to be doing it. Because if you don't do it, then, they'll move you in that direction, ever so gently, but you will get the picture pretty quick.
So what about, have you had certain dreams that have come true that you recall, like, a dream where you woke up and you're like, whoa, that was a crazy dream, and then eventually it came true? Have you had lots of those, or, has your daughter or anybody had things like that happen to them?
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I've had more dreams that were information about things that were true.
Okay.
But it wasn't like I dreamed it or saw it happen. It was just the person was giving me the information in the dream, like they were telling me. So, or I'm being talked into doing something. So they make the person appear to me in a dream talking about something else, but that you're like, they're showing me their humanity. I can't say no, I must do this, right?
Well, that's interesting, because amongst the Sam Jammers here, we've talked about this before, but where we seem to visit each other in our dreams. You show up in people's dreams quite a bit. I think you've joined me a couple times. Once it was like we were communicating telepathically. It was a really weird dream. And so you notice that. What are your thoughts about within this group of people showing up in each other's dreams? Were you visiting other people? I forget who it was you told that Ripple was going to be big, or no, it was Stellar. Stellar was going to be bigger than Bitcoin, right? Yeah. But
that's interesting how that happens. But again, I was told that was the way it was going to go down, that it wasn't just going to be about me. It was going to be all the people here.
Okay. And what are your thoughts about when people show up in your dreams that you haven't had contact with for years? Like occasionally I'll, maybe like an old girlfriend or somebody, like I'll have a grade school friend show up sometimes in my dreams, or high school friends, and it's just out of the blue and you haven't thought about them in forever. What do you think's going on when people have these people show up out of the blue?
Well, I did have a dream 2 nights in a row, but it wasn't about anyone I knew. It was about somebody that my sister knew. And it was that story I told you about, how I said something to her about this lady, how the lady was dressed, that I felt like she was somebody who, if she had died, that she had died recently. And because I said to my sister, I don't want you to think that your new house is haunted, because it was an older home, like 1920s. And, but another one that I had while I was there was my old cheerleading coach came to me, and she apologized for being such a crazy person when she was frustrated or upset. She used to like scream at us and everything. It was terrible. Just, she had a really bad temper. One of those people. I call them cranky pants. Yeah, I was like, yelly pants, right? Stop yelling. God, I'm right here. I can hear you. You don't have to relax, dial it back, man. But she was like that with a bunch of like 12 to 15-year-old girls, right? And I don't think she realized how much she traumatized people with this negative behavior until she died and had her end of life review. Because I bet you anything, and this is to answer your question about what do you think about somebody who shows up randomly, sometimes they've passed away, right? And they're going through their end of life review. And because I'm a medium, I was able to communicate with her after she had had her end of life review and accept her apology, because she didn't realize. And I was like, oh, don't sweat it. You know, we knew that you loved us and you did a lot for us. And, you know, you were the cheerleading coach for all those years. And, you know, that wasn't, she volunteered, right? And, you know, I just let her know we were good, right?
Okay.
You know, we were good.
I almost think, you know, for people that haven't passed, it's almost like if you had a close bond with them at some point in your life, and maybe you've drifted off, there's still that ethereal connection. And sometimes you just they show up and it's like, oh yeah, hey, I remember that person. They were great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that could be a part of it as well. But yeah, I mean, especially if it's an older person who shows up in your dream like that, like I know exactly the week that I was visiting my sister and how long, like when I do eventually find out, if I ever do, when she passed away, then I can match it up with, because like I said, I'm pretty sure that would have been around the time that she died, because that already happened to me with that man who used to work for me. Right. And then I randomly read his obituary, and then it was an obituary that had been placed, I think it was like Ukrainian or something, the family, and they placed it like they place it like 6 weeks after the person has passed away, something like that. Because I was reading it and I was like, oh, he hadn't passed away. You know, I was just predicting the future. It wasn't him talking to me. But then I'm reading the end of the obituary and it says, you know, in the custom of our Ukrainian ancestors, we're posting the obituary 6 weeks after, whatever it was, right? Because I was doing the math in my head and I was like, oh my God, that was like when he died. He saw me and he came and he spoke to me. And again, it was an apology for, you know, it's like when somebody does something to you that was really unfair or mean or, you know, took advantage of you or something like that, right? You know, there's always apologies that come because they see it from the other point of view when they have their end of life review.
Yeah, you know, I've learned that when, you know, you have family members or people that have passed away that come to visit, based on, you know, discussions we've had over the last year and a half, I've kind of learned to take that as them coming to say hi. You know, it's always nice, like an old neighbor that was like another family member to us, or, you know, a grandparent, or even a great aunt, someone like that. And sometimes they don't come through as like exactly how you remember them, but you know it's them, because dreams are always tricky that way. So yeah, I always like when they come and say hi in my dreams. And I even had my grandpa about a year ago came through and told me I was fat. So we had one, and that was one we talked about in a reading, because he was one that follows me around. And I think, you know, it's one of those grandparents. So he's trying to look after me and encourage me. And that is very much his way of doing things, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I would never tell somebody like that. I would never be blunt with somebody like that. You're fat. You need to lose weight.
He would just come out and say it. He was a man of few words. So.
Oh my gosh.
But you know, the other thing that I've noticed, especially within the dream room here, is people talk about or the attacks. And you know, I can talk about things that I've experienced in dreams where you feel like you're being chased, or you're helpless, or you have to fight, and kind of that fear. And I think a lot of people, just as I was reading through the dream room, were experiencing similar things where they experience these different types of attacks. And do you think that's something, as people start to level up, that they'll experience more in their dream state than they have before?
I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. It's one of those things where I noticed that the less afraid I became in my dreams, and I kind of learned to kind of control it, like realize that something was trying to get me, and then you kind of shrug it off, or you're not. It really has stopped. I mean, because the last one I had was probably 6-8 months ago, and I really haven't had anything since. So I think that's something that's interesting, is if you don't have the fear there anymore, and you learn, you know, how to control yourself in a dream state, that seems to go away.
Yeah, I haven't had very many when I'm sleeping at night. I just haven't had that many dreams that I'm remembering. It's usually, like I said, I'll get some stuff just as I'm waking up, like just as I'm coming out of my REM sleep, that where I can remember it. And I make a point of remembering it when it's something that I know has to do with what you guys would be interested in knowing about, right? And that seems to be a lot about what I'm dreaming about. But the negative stuff, that happens to me the same way that I get my information from the other side when I'm awake. You know, the attacks happen when I'm awake as well.
Okay.
And so I'm definitely able to control what goes on there. When you said that you had some control over that when you were dreaming, I was like, oh, I wish.
Yeah, you know, I've gone through that almost like lucid dreaming, where there's been times where I can learn that I realize I'm in a dream state and I'm able to kind of take over control, and then you kind of become in that, you know, it's like that lucid dreaming. But there's some of those cues that I've learned to recognize when I'm in a dream that, oh, wait, this is a dream and it's not real. So, but again, that stuff really hasn't happened for me in a while. So it has, yeah. But interesting, and everybody, you know, experiences stuff differently. And, you know, as I was thinking about, is there a way to use dreams to develop your intuition or your psychic abilities? And really, as I was looking through the Edgar Cayce material, really they encourage you he has a dictionary, you can find it online. You know, there's like all these stuff of, well, this means this, and they're pretty basic interpretations of like what a clock might mean or this or that. But generally what he says is that the best person to interpret a dream is the dreamer himself, because you know yourself. And what I've learned through reading this is, if you really are serious about your dreams and using them, keep a log. It says, ask for a dream, keep a journal by your bed, look for symbols and kind of recurring themes, record how you feel, and be consistent with all this. And eventually you'll start to notice patterns and develop your own dreams. I think, you know, too often we want to say, oh, I had this dream, this is going to come true. And it's never that simple, right? It's usually, I think there's probably more of a hidden message within that.
The thing with the journal is a good idea about the dreams, keeping track of the dreams and writing down the journal. I don't know about using that, about developing your abilities. A lot of people ask me about that. How can I develop it? And I'm like, well, practice is one way. They're like, well, how can I practice? And I was like, well, you know, how did I practice? Okay, well, I would watch those medium shows, and then I would see if I could get the information before they would get it on the show, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're going to practice asking, you know, okay, show me something that might happen this week. If you want to focus, you know, and see, just be consistent and see if you get something. It's kind of the same way you're going to practice, whether it's, you know, maybe a remote viewing or focusing in on something. You have to work that muscle and see if there's any benefit to it, because you might find that you're not getting anything that way and it's not worth it. But I'm always dreams are interesting, but I'm always cautious to, you know, when someone goes on YouTube and says, here's my dream, you know, I think this is going to happen. I don't know about that. Right.
Well, I always just say over and over again, I'm like, track record. Yeah. You know, track record. Like if everything, let's say Crowdcast closed my account and I didn't have a copy of every video on an external drive, right? Let's say I didn't. So I had no more material to prove all the stuff I've said in the past. I wouldn't worry about it one bit, because every single time I do a live stream, I believe I'm creating material for the future, because I do see information of things that are to come. Not necessarily with this program here that we're doing, because, you know, we talk more about woo-woo stuff, you know, the timeless things, and examine, you know, what Edgar Cayce was talking about and his idea about dreams. And so much of what I'm doing, you know, happens when I'm awake, not when I'm asleep. But I know that there are people here in our group and who are listening who do get most of their information through dreams. So I do agree that that is a venue that some people will get their information from the other side. And I also agree that people who are not necessarily mediums can also receive information from the other side, because there's so much proof of this when loved ones have passed away and they come and visit you in your dreams. So you're not normally somebody who speaks or has visitation from the other side, but this person's need to let you know they're okay is so strong, then they have to reach you. Well, they can reach you in your dream state, because that is the easiest way to elicit the information, especially if you're not a medium, because you don't have those extra. It's just like I said, when you're a medium, it's just you have some extra tools available to you so you can do your job, right? That other people don't have need for those tools because they're not mediums. But in reality, you're really interested in it. It's like if somebody's like, well, I'm not a medium, but I'm very interested in this kind of stuff, and I do have some very lucid dreams. And I do feel like that is one way that a person can examine that part of their abilities for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it takes all kinds, right? We don't know what the way our abilities are going to manifest themselves. So if you are a dreamer, yeah, definitely work on it and keep us posted in the Discord. All right, Sam, we got about 20 questions now. So why don't we hop into those and see what people are asking about. All right, Marnie says, hi guys, can the in-between physically touch you or try to? And how can you protect yourself from them? On a personal note, they have been attacking me in a couple of dreams since my vibrations have been rising. Thanks. And Monica writes into the comments, I understand the frequency from crystals like Apache tears may help with psychic protection. What do you say to that, Samantha?
I don't think that is the purpose of crystals. I don't think that they act as protection. If somebody is a medium, they would have protection from their guides. We just as, light beings in our human bodies, we are protected in general because it is against the rules for anything in the in-between to touch us. Now, there are some, I call them rule breakers, right? That can happen a lot of times if you move into a house that's haunted, for example. So you're getting into their space. And it may not be able to touch you directly, but what it'll do is it'll attack the family members. Usually like maybe the youngest child, or maybe like your spouse. It'll get them to change their mood and everything. So that's one way that they can do it for sure. Now, there have been situations where, they will pinch you. Like these are like the ghosts, these are the bad things that are breaking the rules.
Okay. And
usually that's if you're in like a haunted place or something, like they might pinch you, they can push you, these sorts of things. So when you experience that, then to get away from them because they are limited to what they can do only in the space where they're at. Okay. So if you get out of that space and get away from them, you should be okay. But I'm very cautious of any entities who have or are willing to cross over that threshold into our dimension and put their hands on us. Normally, that's only allowed when you are doing things that you've welcomed them in or you've given them an open doorway, right? That sort of thing. People practicing black magic, witchcraft, putting hexes on people is one way you can get yourself in really big trouble. Because sure, you can do something to the innocent party, that you want to do something bad to, but that's going to come back to bite you because there's always a price to pay when you dance with the devil.
Yeah. And, I had experience, was it last year with what we called Ghost Kid, Sam, I think I brought this up probably back in 2019. And it seemed to be a young child that had passed and it would tickle my feet a couple times. And once I had to touch my forehead and didn't, it wasn't malevolent, but eventually he ended up going away. But it wasn't, it's interesting to experience things like that. And you wonder, was it a physical touch or was it, how was I getting that sensation? But it's interesting, but he hasn't been around, so he might have moved on.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Is that it's not always there to stay, but if people are practicing things that open up, portals to their life and allow dark entities in, then they have to be ready for whatever may come from that. And these are things that, I don't even know if I could help somebody if they had these problems, right?
Yeah. All right. Winner writes, hi, Samantha and Rudy. Thanks for all that you do for us peeps. Recently, a few orbs have come across my path, and it has made me wonder, besides being past light worker energies, was there a purpose? So I guess my question is, What say you on orbs, Samantha? What is your interpretation? Something tells me that they could possibly communicate with other guides to pass messages and manifest human thoughts. Thanks.
Well, orbs are just us light beings. That's what we are. We're just an orb, a light being, right? And that's how we travel. We're just the orbs that float. And yes, we can communicate. Now, right now, we're in our bodies, right? But then after we pass away, if we come to this realm and we want to show up and take a look around, we'll be just as a little ball of light. That's, when you're checking things out, usually that's a family member or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just in that's their consciousness, just in that little ball of light.
I wonder, Sam, are there some cameras that are better at catching orbs than others? Or if they're positioned just right? Because, I've always had that thought where we had an old camera that I used to take pictures with in a certain room, and then would always see all these orbs. And I had one in the garage, but since I've moved it, it hasn't. But I always wonder if there's something also to the actual cameras and how they're placed as to whether or not they can capture orbs better.
Oh, I couldn't say for sure on that. That's my second one. That's my second answer tonight. Oh, no idea.
Oh, well, it's always worth asking. Raymond writes, spoken words have power and a specific vibration, especially during prayer. Is there anything negative related to using the Lord's name in vain, or was a commandment introduced to create respect and discipline? In other words, are the vibrations from using his name in vain different from swearing at someone else? Thanks, Sam and Rudy.
It's interesting, isn't it? There is power behind the name for sure. And it's because so many people pray in that name. And that's where the power comes from. So there's a lot of power in the name. And, any type of pirate mouth at all, it all leads to negativity. So I definitely try to minimize my pirate mouth. If I stub my toe, I probably get some pirate mouth going on. But just as a general state of mind, I really have been getting away from that because, again, I don't want to create any problems for myself that don't currently exist. Hey, Liz, she made it in the room.
Oh, good.
Elizabeth is here.
Yeah, that's interesting. You think about it, it's almost like conjuring, or maybe people thought of it as casting a spell. It's one thing to say, darn it, but when you command the best of all and the highest of all beings to do it, that's almost, it carries a different energy. So interesting thought, Raymond. All right. Raymond also writes, is there any value to using bed mattresses with magnets in them or wearing copper bracelets? Or are any positive results just a coincidence? Happy holidays, Sam and Rudy.
I think the positive results are more about your intentions, your positive intentions that come from this idea of healing.
Okay.
Yeah. That it's going to happen and you feel it happening, it's going to happen. You've spent all this money, it must happen. But yeah, no, there's no actual benefit to the magnetic bed or the copper bracelets.
Okay. Daniel L. writes, how did Kung Fu star Bruce Lee die? Was it murder or accidental medicine complication?
Yeah, it was a freak accident.
Okay.
With that allergic reaction. Didn't he went into anaphylactic shock?
Yeah, I believe so. I forget what he got sick with something, and okay.
Yeah, I think he took the medication, and anyways, he laid down, and that was the mistake. He should have gone to the hospital, but these things happen. It was just an accident. It wasn't murder, unfortunately. I mean, it was an unfortunate thing that happened,
All right. Hummingbird writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. In a new house I purchased, I audibly heard "get out" in a male voice. Who said this to me and why? Do you get a read on this? No one lived in the house before me. Thanks to you both. Interesting to hear a voice in a brand new built house.
Oh, yeah. No, you totally can. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They can be everywhere, really. I mean, and when someone tells you to get out, I mean, that sounds to me that... Now, if it sounded like a man's voice, it probably was a man. See, demonic entities, they sound different. They have more of a scary kind of screechy whisper to their voice. So, anyways, I believe that was an earthbound man. he has him passed over, and he's just trying to scare him because he's just cranky. He's just in a bad mood.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. You know, you might want to sage the place, keep him out, keep all those things out from just wandering. Though really, they do. They just wander through sometimes. Even that new place I was in,
Yeah.
my son randomly mentioned to me about this place because this place is a brand new build. They're actually still constructing it, and he said that he likes it here. He goes, "There's really only light people here." He goes, "There's not very many shadow people. There's mainly light people."
Interesting. Yeah, I was surprised to have Ghost Kid show up because I'm in a house that was built new, and this used to be a dairy farm before, so there was nothing really. No one lived in this particular place, so it's interesting. Like you said, they can be anywhere.
Okay.
All right. Bradley J says, "Hello, Samantha. You mentioned that Curiosity had discovered a new element on Mars. Can you see an atomic number for this? A number that would appear in the periodic table? Thanks."
No.
No. Or Claire Audible. Wouldn't that be interesting if that came through? Sorry, Bradley. You'll have to wait until science finds out, right?
Yeah.
All right. Keyflow writes, it's kind of it looks like it got divided up here. Hello, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Akashic Records and how learning about them can help navigate one's life. So I guess, Sam, what are your thoughts on the Akashic Records, this supposedly, etherical book of knowledge that contains everything that ever was and ever will be? Do you think people can access that? Is that something that's,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that might be part of where I get my information from, is up in there.
I wonder if there's a specialty where people that is a specific thing that people do in terms of psychic abilities. They focus on the Akashic record versus just seeing, or maybe that is the ethereal knowledge, right? That you're tapping into.
Yeah, it is. That's what I mean. Like, everybody thinks that it must look like a big library, but I can only stress with people that what your understanding is in your human mind is probably nothing close to the reality of it. Like, even the colors are more vibrant than you could even imagine.
Mary M says, "Hi, Sam. You have often mentioned that the negative entities tend to side on your left side. Is there anything to the superstition of throwing salt over your left shoulder to get rid of them? Does that really work? Thank you."
It doesn't really work in the sense that it's not the salt, it's the intention. When you actually stop and take time to do something like that in order to get rid of them, then you're pretty clear on your intentions that you don't want them around.
Yeah. Okay. This is me says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. What are your thoughts on colors affecting people? Can they create mood changes? Are some colors better than others? And why does anyone like neon anything?"
Oh my gosh, you don't want to see my sneakers.
Because 1980, that's why we love neon.
Yeah, I have those neon orange sneakers. And I actually, they are the only sneakers that I've worn outside that I've had people compliment me on my sneakers. It was probably because they saw me coming a mile down the road and got fixated on them. But anyways, yes. Okay, we digress.
Okay. But what about colors? Can colors affect people? Can they create mood changes or some? I will say this is me, that my wife uses them in some of her healing work. She has this pack of cellophane. I should have got them before the call. But just different colors of cellophane. And she'll shine a light on them. So depending on what she's doing, she will use color. She might put a certain color blanket on someone. So it can also be, I think, a tool for some people if they are healers that they can use in their work too. So, all right. Santi writes, "What is the meaning of the Triskelion symbol?" And I just so happened to print this up. So it's those 3 concentric circles. It's also seen as like 3 legs. I think the Isle of Man has it in its flag. But Sam, is there any particular significance you get from this symbol?
I feel like Schultz tonight. I know nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Sorry.
All right. Well, we might try back in 6 months, Santi. Maybe we'll see if we get something else.
We'll try it again. Sorry about that. I know zero nothing on. That's my third thing tonight. So.
All right. Let's see. Tinkerbell says, "Oh, I saw a ladybug on the wine cork when we were having dinner last night with my aunt. She hung out for a while and played with my finger. Was it a relative visiting us? If so, who?" So, Sam, what do you think on insects or birds showing up? Can people on the other side have animals interact with us like that? Or
they can have them, yes.
Okay.
Have them interact with us, but they're not in them. Some people
Right.
think that they are actually, but it's not. It's interesting. A little while, a few years before my dad passed away, his father died, and he had his dad live with him for a little while before he died. So he looked after his dad, and he randomly said to the youngest sister, I was sitting in the backyard and a deer walked over to me, and I looked at the deer right in the eyes, and then all of a sudden I knew that my dad was okay.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Dunner writes, "Hello, Sam and Rudy. Often when I take pictures, I see purple orbs. Sometimes they actually bounce. I thought it was a lens reflection. However, the orb was there when I was taken from another angle. What's your thoughts on these bouncing orbs?"
I think that's us when we die. I think that's all of the people on the other side, and I think that they're visiting the earth realm, hanging out, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the watching the grass gently, the wheat fields gently sway to the wind, and watching maybe a horse gallop, and all of the things that they appreciated about life when they were here. And you can come back anytime you want. You don't have to be gone over into the other realm forever. You can come back to this realm, and that's how people would catch you. They'll catch you as an orb.
That's cool. And I'm wondering, Dunner, if you've seen them. Like, can you actually get the photograph of them, or do you just see them when you're looking through the camera? But that is interesting that you're seeing them as purple. Very cool. Judy says, "For about 2 years now, around 3 times a week, as I close my eyes and quickly drift off, a colorful play begins that I watch with delight. Never the same one. Lasts around a minute or two, never frightening. Maybe a scene from a movie that hasn't been written with scenery. No theme, I'm just observing scenes. Could be people walking down a street, cars going by, usually a couple of nights in a row, but different themes every time. Something happening for me?"
Yeah, that happens to me.
Okay.
I see that, the scenes.
Neat.
And usually for me, it means that it's someone that I'm going to be reading.
Okay.
I'll see stuff that it has to do with them and their life. So I don't know what they're seeing, but they're probably just experiencing, again, you don't even have to be a medium. You don't have to be like a working medium connecting people with their passed over family members, because that's a translation game.
Yeah.
Really, it is. Like you're just a translator, really, when it comes down to it. But not everybody wants to be a translator or can be or is. But they can still have similar experiences to what I have. Just like with the dream thing, you can have that with the dreams. It can happen because we're all light beings.
And I would say, Judy, the fact that you're getting that as you're going to sleep is very unique, because a lot of us, if we're getting stuff, it might usually comes if we're coming out of a sleep and we're just kind of laying in bed, kind of groggy. So that's cool. I would say start paying attention and see if you're getting anything when you wake up as well, because that is that magic state that you're in when you're best able to receive messages. All right. Janet says, "Hi, guys. Is it true that Ouija board can bring up spirits? I played this when I was younger, and I'm just wondering if this can affect me in the future. And are the spirits angry? Thanks so much."
Well, Janet, if you didn't have anything happen when you were younger, then you're good to go. I mean, normally the things, they start to happen to you right away when you're younger. But yes, you can conjure negative entities that might follow you home when you play with the Ouija board. but it doesn't sound like Yonit had that happen. Most times it doesn't happen, right? But, you know, it's more dangerous if somebody has gifts and abilities, that these things will try to swoop in and affect a person who is a light worker. Because, I mean, hey, if they can cut you off at the pass and keep you from, you know, being a positive force in the world, then that's really where they want to go. So they'll use a Ouija board or whatever sort of, you know, sort of conjuring games that that people come up with. I would stay away from all of those.
Yep, makes sense. All right, well, that does it for questions, Sam. And just some housekeeping before we close out. You said you were going to take some time off at Christmas. Barefoot Doc actually agreed to guest host the show on the 23rd. Are you going to be off the week of Christmas, or are you taking off between Christmas and New Year's?
It's between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay. So for everyone, Barefoot Doc has kindly agreed to guest host, as I will be traveling, and I don't want to explain to my family that I'm hosting a psychic show on the internet when I'm visiting them for Christmas. So yeah, that's great. And then I will be back with everyone next year with my puppy.
Oh, I can't wait to see your puppy. I'm very excited. Thanks again for hanging out, everybody. And for the people listening on my podcast, I look forward to the 2021 new package of episodes that we're going to put together for 2021. So thanks again for hanging out, everybody, and I'll see you guys on the next Rudy Psychic Meetup.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Sam. Good night, everyone.
Okay, bye for now.